What's he doing?
Don't fall for that.
Friday night television is a weird thing to explain to people who grew up with streaming. There was a time when "What's on tonight?" wasn't a casual question. It was a schedule. And on Fridays, ABC figured out the cheat code. Make it feel like a weekly sleepover. You didn't just watch a sitcom. You joined a block. You knew the vibe, you knew the faces, you knew the order, and you could basically set your watch by the laugh track. Fox watched all of that and thought, okay, we want that. But Fox was never going to be the warm, fuzzy, family hug network. Fox was the network that liked things louder, stranger, darker, and a little more chaotic. So instead of copying TGIF perfectly, Fox kept trying to build its own Friday night destination out of whatever worked for Fox at the time. True crime, cult sci-fi, gritty thrillers, quirky misfits, and eventually live, can't-miss event TV. That's what this countdown is. 9 times, Fox took a swing at owning Friday night. Some of these experiments were genuinely smart. Some were doomed on arrival. And a few became legends precisely because Friday treated them like a trapdoor. Count them down with me. From the first big, wait, Fox is doing that on a Friday moment, all the way to the one time Fox actually found a Friday night formula that behaved like a real weekly event. And if you grew up in that era, you can almost feel the remote control clicking between networks like it's a sport. ABC laughs on one side, Fox weirdness on the other, and everybody trying to claim the same slice of your weekend. 9. America's Most Wanted. Let's make Friday night dangerous. Number 9. Fox's earliest Friday identity wasn't family comedy night. It was lock your doors and look at this sketch. If ABC's TGIF was a pizza party, Fox's idea of Friday comfort food was a phone number for fugitives. When America's Most Wanted started gaining traction, Fox realized something important. Friday nights didn't have to be wholesome to be habitual. People still gathered. They still watched together. They still talked about it afterward. Except instead of quoting punchlines at school on Monday, you were swapping stories like, "Did you see that guy with the mustache and the weird van?" This was a totally different kind of appointment viewing. It felt urgent, like you were participating in something that might actually matter. And it gave Fox a template they'd return to again and again. If you can't win Friday with comfort, win it with adrenaline. Make the audience feel like if they skip tonight, they're missing the moment everyone else will be talking about. The irony is that this approach is closer to TGIF than it sounds. TGIF worked because it was a ritual. Fox's ritual just wasn't laugh with the family. It was lean forward and pay attention. For a while, that worked, and it taught Fox that Fridays could be a destination if the hook was strong enough. But Fox being Fox, they didn't stop at reality crime. They looked at what they were good at, weird, risky, genre stuff, and thought, what if Friday is where we build a clubhouse for the obsessives? 8. Briscoe County Jr. Plus, The X-Files, the nerd clubhouse blocked the moment Fox started treating Friday like a nerd sanctuary. Picture it. While other networks were chasing broad, easy laughs, Fox lined up shows that practically dared you to become a fan. Pairing the adventures of Briscoe County Jr. with The X-Files was Fox quietly saying, "We see you, people who live for mysteries." Briscoe was this mashup of Western swagger and sci-fi weirdness, not the kind of thing you'd assume belongs on a network trying to build a mass audience tradition. And then, The X-Files comes on and turns the room into a flashlight under the chin campfire story, except it's slick, scary, and weirdly emotional. This was Fox's TGIF attempt, just translated into Fox language. Instead of a sitcom ladder, you got a genre ladder. Instead of hang out with these lovable families, it was hang out with these worlds. And once you're invested hard. You don't casually watch The X-Files. You start debating theories, rewatching episodes, and turning the theme music into a personality trait. The problem is, Friday is a brutal place to ask for loyalty. Genre shows need momentum and consistency, and Friday nights are full of people doing literally anything else. Still, this experiment proved something huge. Fox could make Friday feel like a destination, as long as the destination was weird enough. And once Fox learned that fans would actually show up for weird, they started tossing even stranger ideas into the Friday laboratory. Sometimes it was brilliant, sometimes it was chaos. Either way, it was unmistakably Fox. 7. The mid-90s sci-fi gamble. Can we bottle the X-Files? The mid-90s period where Fox kept asking, can we clone the X-Files feeling? And Friday kept answering, sure, but at a cost. This is where you get the wave of ambitious, brainy sci-fi concepts that feel like they were designed for a very specific viewer. The person who wants mystery, technology anxiety, conspiracy energy, and a mythology that will eventually require a corkboard. Shows like VR5 are the poster children for this moment. Cool premise, stylish mood, and that unmistakable sense that the writers are hoping you'll stick around long enough for the big picture to reveal itself. Fox's Friday strategy here was basically, build a mini-universe, keep the vibe consistent, make it feel like if you're home on Friday, you're in the club. The issue is that Friday doesn't reward eventually. Friday rewards right now. If a show needs 3 episodes to fully click, you might never get those 3 episodes. Not because the show is bad, but because the slot is fighting gravity. And Fox did that thing networks do, where they treat Friday like both a proving ground and a parking lot. It's where you put your risky ideas, and it's where you stash things when you're not sure what else to do with them. That's a dangerous combination. You're asking for cult devotion while scheduling like you're expecting casual sampling. Still, this era matters because it's Fox openly trying to build identity programming. Not just a show, but a Friday mood. And when it worked, it created the kind of loyal fandom other networks couldn't buy. Next, Fox leaned even harder into the darkness, and Friday became the home of a show that felt like it was filmed under a thundercloud. 6. Millennium, the Friday Night Doom. Number 6. Millennium, the experiment where Fox basically tried to anchor Friday night with a show that felt like a nightmare you can't wake up from. If the X-Files was spooky fun with an adventurous streak, Millennium was the serious, brooding cousin who doesn't laugh at your jokes. It's crime, apocalypse dread, moral rot, the kind of show that makes you glance out the window like the world might be ending quietly in the parking lot. And Fox looked at that tone and said, yes, Friday night. This is one of those programming decisions that makes sense on paper if you're thinking in Fox terms. Friday audiences are fragmented, so instead of trying to please everyone, you aim at a specific type of viewer, the person who wants something intense, adult, and atmospheric. You create a lane so distinct that if someone is craving that exact flavor, they know where to go every week. But here's the catch. TGIF worked because it was comfort. Millennium is not comfort. It's compelling, but it's heavy. It asks you to show up emotionally. And Friday nights are when people are already drained from the week. Some viewers want a release. Millennium gives you a sermon in the shape of a thriller. That doesn't mean it was a bad experiment. It was actually a bold one. It showed Fox wasn't trying to be ABC. Fox was trying to own a completely different version of Friday. The issue is that when you build a Friday identity around darkness, you've got to support it like it's a flagship, not treat it like an experiment. Which brings us to the next entry, a show that Fox didn't just challenge with Friday. It practically sabotaged with Friday. Number 5. Brimstone, the Time Slot Trap. Here's the quick pitch. A cop dies, goes to hell, and gets sent back to Earth to hunt down escaped damned souls. That's a great hook. It's genre. It's edgy. It's got a built-in Monster of the Week engine. And it's the kind of premise that could have built the exact kind of weird Friday tradition Fox seemed to want. But then the scheduling reality hits. Brimstone was originally positioned like Fox had real confidence in it. The kind of placement that says, We think this is a player. And then, late in the game, it gets yanked and dropped into Friday at 8 p.m., which is basically the worst possible compromise slot for a show like this. Too early for truly grisly material, too late to be a family-friendly anchor, and too Friday to build momentum. This is the Fox Friday paradox in one move. They wanted Friday to be a destination, but they also treated Friday like a place you toss a show when you're panicking. That's not how you build a tradition. That's how you build a cautionary tale. And Brimstone becomes exactly that. The kind of show people discover later and say, wait, how did this not last? The answer is usually some combo of promotion, patience, and time slot math. A show like this needs people to form a habit. Habit requires consistency. Consistency requires the network to act like it believes in the habit. Instead, Brimstone got Friday'd, and in Fox history, getting Friday'd is almost a genre of its own. And if you think that story hurts, the next one is the famous version. A show that became a legend largely because of how it was handled on a Friday. 4. Firefly, the cult classic that became a ghost story. Firefly, the experiment that still makes people sigh like they just remembered an old heartbreak. Firefly should have been a slam dunk cult builder, a space western with a scrappy crew, lived-in worlds, sharp dialogue, and that irresistible found family vibe that makes you want to hang out on the ship with them. In a better universe, Fox would have turned it into a whole branded Friday thing. Tune in, meet the crew, become obsessed, repeat. Instead, Firefly landed in the classic Fox Friday spot. 8 p.m. on a night when half the audience is leaving the house, and the other half is not necessarily looking for a slow burn world build. And the rollout didn't help. A new universe needs clarity and rhythm. It needs the audience to trust that if they invest, they'll be rewarded. Fox treated Firefly like a show the audience should chase, instead of a show the network should shepherd. The result is that Firefly becomes the ultimate, I swear it's amazing, just give it a chance recommendation. It's the show people find later, binge in a weekend, and then whisper, wait, that's it? And here's why it belongs in a TGIF discussion. TGIF wasn't just about quality sitcoms. It was about lowering the friction of watching. You showed up, and the network did the work. Firefly is the opposite story, a show that asked viewers to do the work in the hardest possible slot, with the least amount of patience, in an era when you couldn't just instantly catch up. So Firefly didn't become Fox's TGIF. It became Fox's ghost story. And Fox didn't stop doing this. They did a quieter, sneakier version of the same thing with the next entry. A show that didn't get canceled loudly. It got vanished. 3. Wonderfalls, the quiet disappearance experiment. The experiment where Fox basically tested a quirky masterpiece on Friday and then acted surprised when it didn't instantly turn into a mass phenomenon. Wonderfalls feels like it was made for people who love dialogue, oddball humor, and characters who talk like their internal monologue runs at double speed. It's clever, emotional, and just weird enough that you can't pitch it in one sentence without sounding like you're making it up. So, what does Fox do with a show like that? Friday. Because Friday is where networks put things they're not sure how to sell. It's the, maybe this will find its people slot. And to be fair, Wonderfalls did find its people. It just found them slowly, the way cult shows do. But Friday doesn't reward slow. Friday rewards instant. If the first episode doesn't catch a casual viewer who accidentally landed on it, you don't get the second chance. And that's brutal for a show built on charm, character, and the kind of storytelling that blooms over time. Wonderfalls needed a little breathing room. It needed the network to treat it like a discovery, not a coin flip. This is the point in the countdown where Fox's Friday identity starts to look less like an intentional block and more like a pattern. Fridays become the place where interesting shows go to prove themselves under maximum pressure. And when they fail, the story becomes, it was ahead of its time, or it was too smart, or people weren't ready. Sometimes that's true, and sometimes the simpler truth is, the slot was a trap. Next up, we hit a moment when Fox wasn't just experimenting on Fridays. It was practically admitting defeat and treating parts of the night like empty space. 2. The "we give up" phase. Friday as placeholder TV. The era where Fox's Friday night experiment wasn't a show at all. It was the quiet decision to stop trying. Every network has a day part it struggles with, but there's a special kind of corporate exhaustion that shows up when a network starts filling premium hours with encores, repeats, or placeholder programming. It's not even a diss. It's an admission. Launching something here is so hard, we'd rather not burn a new show. And for Fox, Friday developed that reputation over decades. They'd tried the crime urgency approach. They'd tried the cult sci-fi clubhouse. They'd tried the dark prestige anchor. They'd tried quirky misfits. They'd even built legends while failing to build stability. Eventually, you could feel the network's relationship with Friday shift from "we can win this" to "we just need to survive this." That's the opposite of TGIF energy. TGIF was confidence. TGIF was the network saying, "Friday is ours, and we're going to make you feel like you're missing out if you're not here." Fox's give up phase was the network saying, "If you're here, cool. If not, also cool." The weird part is, this might have been the most honest Fox Friday strategy, because it acknowledged a hard truth. Friday isn't just a night. It's a lifestyle. People go out. People travel. People crash early. People have kids' games. And the more entertainment options people had, the more Friday became the night you had to earn with something that feels genuinely unskippable. Which sets up the final entry perfectly. Because after years of trying to manufacture a Friday identity through scripted programming, Fox found the one thing that behaves like TGIF in the modern era: a real, loud, weekly event. 1. Smackdown, Fox's finally a real Friday event moment. Fox finally lands on a Friday night play that actually functions like a tradition: live appointment viewing spectacle. Enter WWE Smackdown. This is the genius of it. You don't have to convince people to try it, and maybe you'll like it. Wrestling already comes with its own built-in ritual. Fans don't watch it like a random show. They watch it like sports, like a community thing. It's live energy, big moments, and the constant possibility that something wild happens, and you'll see the clip everywhere by the time you wake up. That's Friday night fuel. When Smackdown hit Fox on Friday nights, it wasn't trying to be family sitcom comfort. It was trying to be the place you go when you want noise, drama, entrances, catchphrases, cliffhangers, and a crowd that reacts like it's a concert. And for Fox, that's the closest they ever got to the TGIF effect. A block that feels bigger than the show itself. Even better for Fox, it solved the Friday problem. Scripted shows need consistent week-to-week viewing to build. Live events create their own urgency. If you miss an episode of a sitcom, you can catch up. If you miss the night someone returns, betrays someone, cashes in, or starts a feud, you feel behind instantly. That fear of missing out is a programming weapon. And once you lean into that, Friday stops being a graveyard and starts being a stage. Fox's Friday identity becomes less, "we're experimenting again," and more, "this is what we do on Fridays." After decades of trying to copy the idea of TGIF, Fox finally found its own version. Not cozy, not wholesome, not a sitcom sleepover, but a weekly event that people plan around. Conclusion. So did Fox ever actually become the new TGIF? Not in the literal sense. They didn't build a long-running, cozy sitcom ladder that felt like a guaranteed family ritual for years on end. But the funny thing is, Fox may have built something more. Fox, A Friday night mythology. ABC's TGIF produced comfort classics. Fox's Friday experiments produced stories. The kind of stories TV fans retell like urban legends. Remember when Fox put that brilliant genre show on Friday and then panicked? Remember when Friday nights were basically a science lab for the weirdest ideas on television? Remember how certain shows didn't just get canceled, they got Friday'd? And it's not all doom and gloom. Some of these swings were smart. America's Most Wanted showed that Friday could be appointment viewing if the stakes felt real. The Briscoe X-Files era proved you could build a fandom clubhouse when the vibes were strong enough. Even the failures created fandoms that lasted longer than the show's actual runs. That's an odd kind of success. Not rating success, but cultural afterlife success. The big difference is that TGIF was built on predictability. Fox built Friday on risk. Risk creates higher highs and much lower lows. It gives you cult classics, but it rarely gives you stability. And then, in the end, Fox sort of cracked the modern code. If you want Friday to matter, make it unskippable. Make it live. Make it loud. Make it an event. So maybe Fox didn't replace TGIF, but for a few decades, it did something just as memorable. It turned Friday night into the place where TV either became a tradition or became a legend.